backbenchers have lashed out at suggestions that that party could go into government with Fianna Fáil. Prominent TD Jerry Buttimer said Micheál Martin and his party have done untold damage, quote unquote, to the country in previous coalitions. His comments came after Agricultural Minister Simon Coveney said he would be open to a Fine Gael Fianna Fáil government if a programme for government could be agreed. And of course, one of Simon Coveney's colleagues in government, and in fact even around the cabinet, Kathleen Lynch of Labour, accused him of being disloyal. This is Mr Coveney, of being disloyal to the coalition itself, that the existing one, even by setting that kite out, so to speak. On the line to me now is my next guest, and you have met him before on the programme, and he is a young member of Fianna Fáil here in Waterford and also sits on the council, and he is Eamon Quinlan. Good morning, Eamon.
I'm sorry, Billy, you don't have Eamon Quinlan, you have Councillor Jason Murphy here.
Oh, sorry, Jason, sorry about that. I got my wires crossed. Welcome to the programme. Jason, died in the one Fianna Fáil, yeah?
What's that? Sorry?
Died in the wool Fianna Fáil person.
Oh, I'm dyed in the wool. I'd be fourth generation Fianna Fáil, so I'd be seen as more Fianna Fáil than the Fianna Fáil on the council.
Okay, so how does this notion of Simon Coveney sit with you?
It's an interesting look, Billy. Obviously there's an election in the offing, and I think the election is a lot nearer than people might think. I think we might be looking at an election in the summer, and I was very interested in Kathleen Lynch's comments this morning in the Examiner. There seems to be already a separation and a parting of the ways between Labour and Fine Gael, so it's interesting. But looking at
and also calls on the Taoiseach to get a bit more prominent and to set out the Labour stall more clearly. That's obvious.
Yes,
well.
I mean, look, there's a perception there, and there's a belief that Labour has been the mudguard maybe for this government over the last 12 months, particularly since the Troika has left. They've taken the brunt of it, and we can see that in the opinion polls. So there's a lot of jockeying for position, and there's a lot of analysis going on at the moment. I suppose it's a bit of a national pastime. We're looking down the barrels of an election. It's a bit of a national pastime.
Yeah, but some people stand back and say, with all due respect, Jason, that when you look at Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, ideologically there's not that much between you.
Oh, well, as you introduced me, as I died in the wool Fianna Fáil, I fundamentally disagree with that, because even if you look at the last 4 or 5 budgets, and budgets that Fianna Fáil were involved in, and they were extremely tough budgets and an extremely tough time. But they were seen by independent observers as being progressive. And now that's not me saying that, that's the RSI saying that, and that's Social Justice Ireland saying that, and that's Father Sean Healy saying that. They were seen as progressive. They were seen as protecting those on the margins. The budgets since this government came into power, led by Fine Gael and in partnership with Labour, have been seen as progressive. And I'll give you an example now, just an example off the top of my head. Even in the last budget, which has been seen...
You said that, hang on, you've just said that that the budget of the present coalition have been seen as progressive. I think you meant the opposite.
What I said is the budgets under Fianna Fáil have been seen as progressive.
We got that. Yeah.
And the ERSI and people like Social Justice Ireland and people like Father Sean Healy have said since this government took office, their budgets have been seen as regressive. If you take, for example, even the last budget, which has been seen, it could be construed as an election budget, because I actually believe we will have an election even before the next budget. A person on 70 grand would benefit from the last budget 4 times as much than a person on the minimum wage. Now, I was interested to see Simon Coveney's piece in the paper. I thought it was fairly benign. It was more to do with interns in Fine Gael rather than Fianna Fáil. But I will say this, he said he had no ideological truck with going in with Fianna Fáil. Well, I would have an ideological truck with going in with Fine Gael, because for me, Fine Gael are a party that protects the privilege in this country.
Okay, but let's look at the real politic that might or might not exist post the next election. And yes. Fine Gael doesn't have the numbers as it stands. In fact, none of the parties has the numbers to actually form a government independently of bringing on board another coalition partner. Now, everybody's saying, no, we will not get into bed with Sinn Féin, no matter how good they might do. It's not looking good for Labour based on the polls, so they mightn't even be able to make up the numbers if Fine Gael were to look to them to form a coalition. So if he's still in there, Enda Kenny as leader of Fine Gael comes to Micheál Martin, will Micheál Martin slam the door?
say this, Billy, right? I think it's a trap we're falling into again now.
But it's all about power in the end, Jason.
It is, but I think we're falling into a trap. What we should be talking about really is policies and what we're going to do to bring this country forward. Now, I know it's interesting and it's nice to get into a numbers game, and it's a bit of a national pastime in some ways. But in some ways, I feel we're falling into the same trap we fall into in 2011. If you look at that election, Billy, you had a situation there, I think it was 6 weeks out from the election, where Labour were at 33%. You had Gilmore for Taoiseach, you had posters to that effect. And it became a battle between, we all knew that Fianna Fáil were going out of government. We got our answer. We made choices that, in retrospect, were wrong. I'm first to admit that. So we all knew what was going to happen. Now, we got into a situation where you had this Gilmore for Taoiseach thing was going on. They were at 33% 6 weeks before an election. Labour ended up on 19%. I suppose the point I'm making is the campaign hasn't started yet. There's no policy positions out there. There's no manifestos out there yet. There's no programme for government. When the election starts, and I do believe it'll be nearer rather than further away, it'll take on its own dynamic. It will take on its own narrative. If you look at the local elections, Fianna Fáil were hovering around 19-20% in most opinion polls. We ended up on 25%. You take a party like Sinn Féin, they were on 20-22% of most opinion polls. I think they brought in about 14-15%. Once the election starts, once parties put down their policy position, the people will decide. And at the end of the day, and I don't want to be falling into cliches, at the end of the day, the people are sovereign.
I accept that absolutely, of course. But nevertheless, when you look at all the variables, looking at all the tracking polls, it's highly unlikely that any of the existing parties will have the numbers to form a government on their own.
I agree. Looking at it from now, we're in an extremely fluid position, and we're in a position of political...
So why rule out getting into bed politically then with Fine Gael, for God's sake?
Sorry, Billy.
Why then, you as a member of Fianna Fáil, why should you rule out getting into political
as I outlined before, as a grassroots member of Fianna Fáil, I believe that Fine Gael are too right-wing. I believe they're a party of the privileged. They're a neoliberal party. They're a conservative party.
Yeah, but look, come on. It was one of the big tenets of Fianna Fáil policy for years and years. We will never go into coalition. You did.
Yes, I know what was. I'm only telling you my.
I mean, sacred cows in politics. There's a history of them that have been killed.
If you look at Fianna Fáil's record in government, and not to be defined over the last 2 or 3 years, and I know what happened, and I was a victim of that as well. I mean, I was only a PAYE worker as well, and we all know what happened. But if you look at Fianna Fáil over its time in government, I believe that Fianna Fáil is a very progressive party. I mean, I'm not going to list off with them, but we were part of free secondary school education. If you look at the Succession Act, before that act was brought into power, women literally in this country had the right to poke the fire in the house. Since then, they had a right to the family home, child benefits, social welfare. The list goes on and on. Now, I'm not here to talk about Fianna Fáil. I'm more or less here to talk about myself as a local representative. But I will say this. I don't want to fall into doing the maths of it and the numbers game of it. There'll be programmes for government. There'll be manifestos. And this debate is going on in all parties. This debate is going on in Sinn Féin as well. I think there's a lot of people focusing on Fianna Fáil at the moment. But I think Jerry Adams came out in the last couple of days and he said they'd have to compromise. And I was interested to see that his attitude on Irish Water, and he said Irish Water would have to remain, and their attitude on the water rates in Irish Water is a little bit fluid as well. So it's not only Fianna Fáil. We're in a very fluid position. As you said, Billy, and I agree with you, we're all kind of level pegging. You have a 3% margin of error, really, in opinion polls. The last couple of opinion polls, tracking polls, as you said, Fine Gael are on about 23-24%, Sinn Féin look on about 20-21%, and Fianna Fáil on about 20%. As I said, when the dynamic and the space is created, I don't know what will happen. Okay. As I alluded to earlier on, we had the Gilmore for Taoiseach thing at 33%, they ended up on 19%.
All right.
We went to a local election.
One final question for you, and I'll have to take a wrap on it now because we're running out of time. One listener wants to know, will you be putting your name forward as a prospective candidate for Fianna Fáil in this constituency?
You caught me on the hop there, Billy. I will say this.
I often say that about me, Jason. Go on.
Well, Billy, I might give you a bit of a scoop there now, and you're the first to hear it, and I've discussed it with family and friends. I certainly will. I'll be throwing my hat in the ring for the Fianna Fáil nomination. Now, having said that, I'll go through convention like all the rest. Mary Butler is out already.
She's already
Mary Butler would make a fantastic candidate. I believe that Fianna Fáil needs a city and county candidate. So, yes, the answer to that, I'm going to give you a straight answer.
Okay.
Yes,
well, good luck to you all, and thank you for joining me on the programme this morning, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks, Billy. Thank you.